The first idea is that you have to have something to preserve or express. Preserve in that you're looking at the world around you and you're thinking, what about this do I find interesting? What is worth saving? What is worth bringing with me into the future? And express in having those ideas, those concepts, those feelings that are rattling around inside your mind and your body that you want to crystallize in a photograph, that you want to communicate, that you want to move other people to understand. So what do you want to preserve or what you want to express? Consider that when you're taking photographs. And the second key concept is that what doesn't add detracts. You want just enough and no more than that. And therefore the idea is that while a painter will add things, a photographer will take things away. You've got to really consider what it is you want in your frame and remove everything else. Keep it very, very simple, keep the theme simple, and that's going to make the photographs much better. Generally the best way to do this is to move closer, but you can do it with blurring the background with a larger aperture. There are lots of ways to do it, but it comes back to that core concept of keeping it simple. The third idea is you have to really learn to love light. Photography is literally writing with light. Now that's a truism. What we want to think about is that your camera is not photographing the objects. It's a machine that captures the light. So it's the light that you actually have to really learn to love, learn to understand. Look at light, learn where it's coming from, the color, the specularity, the softness of it. And when you understand light and understand natural light and understand studio light, your photography is going to improve dramatically. The fourth idea is you've got to understand visual language. If I ask you which color weighs more, light yellow versus dark red, you're generally going to say the light yellow weighs more. Same with white, weighs less than black. And if you're using this, you can use it to balance the picture. You can understand the frame, and based on the weighting of these colors, you can understand how they actually interact with one another and how they weigh and therefore balance or imbalance the frame. You can also look at the dynamic verticals and the dynamic diagonals versus the more relaxing horizontals. Learn the visual language, best to learn it from painterly books, books about drawing and so on, and use it in your pictures. And therefore what you're looking for is that the content is one thing, but also the form of the picture, how the picture is weighted in terms of darker colors, lighter colors. It's that visual language is going to make the big difference in making your photographs really stand out. The fifth idea is that you want to start off generally with black and white photography because it simplifies. It always looks interesting because you're focusing on the essentials. It's making it defamiliar. A lot of art is about defamiliarization, making something different than the everyday so people look at it again. But using color should be done consciously. A lot of early color photography was shunned because it was seen as just, okay, we'll add color haphazardly. And obviously the painters before had been using color in a very interesting and very informed way. There are three ways to use color. You can use it impressionistically, which means that you can use it just because it's beautiful, it looks good. You can use it expressionistically, which you're using color to express emotions. So Picasso in his blue period, reds, for example, to show more of a passion. You can also use it in terms of an idea. You can have, for example, the symbol of virginal white or the anger of red. So again, use color consciously, understand what you're doing with your color and why you're using it as a visual message within the picture. Understand color and use it consciously. The sixth idea, look at lots of great art. It's one of the best ways to learn. You want to immerse yourself in the best pictures of the past several thousand years. So go into galleries often, understand what people are doing and why, and how it's changed over the years, different mediums, different messages being put across, and understand why the artist has chosen to do this and what they've actually achieved in doing so. So understand art, look at art, and obviously look at photography as well now, but you don't want to look at too much photography because you'd end up taking the same sort of photographs as all of your peers. So look right the way back through the art history of around the world to find out what interests you personally, what you personally resonate with. That's going to make a big difference. Look at lots of art. The seventh idea is you want to replicate the greats. You want to really look at the best photographers working now, the best painters of the last several thousand years, and attempt to replicate them. So think, okay, well, can I recreate this picture as accurately as possible? And you're really trying to get that precise picture that's almost identical to the original. Now, the reason for this is not a creative endeavor, but it's an endeavor in the craft. You want to understand how they've lit, be able to understand how people are lighting their photographs, what modifiers they're using, if they're using naturalized and so on, which lenses they're using, and therefore by understanding the craft and being able to copy the greats, you'll actually go a lot further. In the early painters, what the best painters would do is they would apprentice under a great painter. They would look at the great painter's work, they would copy it, and then they would move on from that. By looking at a lot of great painters, a lot of great photographers now, and choosing lots of them, of your favorites, to replicate, you'll end up with your own style. So replicate the greats. The eighth idea is you want to photograph what you feel for. If you take photographs that are craft-wise very good, technique-wise excellent, but they don't really say anything to you, they're going to be kind of boring pictures. And so what you want to do is, like Charlie Parker said, if you don't live it, it doesn't come out your horn about jazz. And so you want to really feel your pictures. You want to feel a strong emotion. For example, if you're photographing a refugee crisis, if you're photographing a loved one, if you're photographing the love between two people and a wedding, the more that you feel in the pictures, the more you can empathize, the better and more powerful the photographs are going to be. The ninth idea is you want to develop a personal style. Now this is something that people can fall into the trap of essentially thinking, okay, well, I'm going to edit all my photographs in a certain way and that's going to be my style. I think that's probably the wrong way to go. Your style is going to come naturally as you progress as a photographer, as you try and experiment with different things and find out what naturally resonates with you. So if you're photographing a lot, it's going to improve your personal style just as you carry along. Also, again, looking at good art and finding out what you personally like. But editing is a big part of this, so editing should be balanced with your photography style. The important thing is photographers are not paid necessarily for, well, some of the photographers are not paid for the craft, the technique that they can have. They're paid for the vision. It's the actual eye that they bring, the perspective that they bring to the art itself. So develop your own personal style. Make it recognizable, but don't force it. And the 10th idea hurts me a little bit, but you've got to understand that editing and presentation is as important as the photography itself. Photography is fun because you're doing it almost to do it. It's a lovely process. It really gets you into the moment and it changes the way that you see. But that said, editing and presentation is, for photography, very important, because when you're in a darkroom, you're understanding, okay, well, I'm going to dodge and burn this area, I'm going to make this area darker, and therefore darker is more sinister, more somber, and it changes the feel of the picture. And so editing is very important to really bring out what you saw at the time. Obviously, digital editing with Photoshop and so on, so much more powerful, but you can do a great deal more, and that's going to be very, very useful to have that capability, that ability to change the scene and to either make it like you saw it or to make it as you wanted it to be. So really spend as much time learning Photoshop, learning how to edit properly, because it's going to have a real impact on the end photographs. And of course, you want to print them. That's one thing that people absolutely fail to do at the moment, is that they keep the photographs on the hard drive. The hard drives break. It's not a matter really of if, it's when those hard drives break. I've had several break. I've lost years of photography. Back up your photographs, but the most important thing is to print them. So consider whether you're going to print them small, if you're going to print them large. Obviously, if you can print them large, then you can have the figures in them smaller relatively. So for example, the painting The Fall of Icarus, that's going to make a difference. So Fall of Icarus is, you can have a very small picture, a very small subject and a much larger picture. Now with your screen on your Instagram, for example, on your photographs like that, the difference there is you have to make the pictures much more bold, you make the subject much bigger. So consider the medium that you're going to display them in and make sure that you print one photograph a month. Take anything away from this video, take one photograph every single month, your favorite one, edit it properly and print it. Give it as a gift, keep it on your shelf, whatever, but make sure that you print one photograph every month. This is Ben from holisticphotography.com. Be sure to like and subscribe, ask any questions that you have, and give me suggestions for future videos that you'd like to see in the comments below. Thanks so much.